So I'm going to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. It's 7:04. The first thing I want to do is I think I'm going to ask for a motion to reorder the agenda because the Royal Roof and the elementary school renovations are down far in the agenda, and I think we should put them up to be just under the outstanding questions on the Board of Ed budget, because we're going to be voting on that too. So could I have a motion to reorder the agenda to put the discuss Royal Roof item as a second item?
I'll do that, Clara.
Anne and Teresa, everybody in favor? Okay, is there anyone who is against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you all. Okay, the first, welcome to everybody, and I especially want to thank all the members of the Board of Ed and the administration who are joining us tonight. We appreciate your being available to answer our questions. The first item is to review the outstanding questions we had on the Board of Ed 2021-2022 budget, the operating budget, and the capital budget. I know you all received in advance the questions on recruitment and the answers. So let's start with any other questions you have or any deeper knowledge you want to have about any of these questions. Peter, can you hear me? Peter? Unmute. I see you talk, I don't hear you. Does anybody else hear Peter?
No.
Okay, Kristen, can you help us to hear Peter?
Yeah, I can see that his mic is on. Wait, give me a second.
It's off now. There, it's on.
Right.
Nope. It's not working.
Okay, I see you talking.
It could be his microphone itself. Is his microphone connected to the GoToMeeting itself?
He's going to try dialing in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if anyone else has a question while we're waiting for Peter. Karen, did you have a question? I see your mic. No?
No,
no one? Okay.
sorry. Hi, this is Meg. I'm sorry. I'm not normally this technologically impaired, but I'm struggling with GoToMeeting, so apologies for that. I did have a question. First of all, thank you very much for the very detailed answers. I appreciate that. It's definitely huge for me in terms of just understanding how a lot of these decisions are made. I'm looking at question number 2. Does the district have a recruiting relationship with any universities? I'm just wondering how often those universities or who is on the roster is reviewed. And by that, do you do any particular study on the type of curriculum that they have in those schools, or do you revolve other universities, or how does that work?
The question, I guess, was for Dr. Adley and for Mrs. Sion.
Yes, thank you, Clara. That's correct.
Right. So we don't actually review curriculum at the universities. We know, because of our relationships, which ones have better departments in certain areas than others. And, we judge the institutions a lot of times on the basis of the quality of the candidate we get. I'm not sure I'm answering the question.
Meg, did you want to move to clarify what you meant?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not communicating this very clearly. I just want to know, are these sort of historically the same universities you recruit year on year, or do you look at other ones, or do you just rely on the fact that past experiences said that candidates from these universities are pretty good, so we'll just continue? Or, what are some of the metrics you use to determine what schools to continue recruiting from, and do you ever go outside of this current roster that you have?
Yes, we do. And as a matter of fact, since I've been here, we've reached out to Manhattanville and Quinnipiac and tried to develop more of a relationship. Dr. Adley, being an alum of the University of Connecticut, is going to try to help us develop a stronger relationship with the University of Connecticut. They have certain towns where they place their interns and student teachers, and we would very much like to become one of those towns, but geographically, it might not make sense. So, we've reached out to some of the universities in New York City. That hasn't always been fruitful, but we haven't given up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Peter, are you back? Are you able to?
I'm here. I don't know if you hear me now.
Great. I can hear you. Good.
Perfect. Wonderful. So I have two questions. One is regarding recruiting, and the other one is regarding sort of the overall strategic plan and the budget, over the next couple of years. So maybe the recruiting, and first I want to congratulate Darien High School to being named #1 public school in Connecticut. So you guys doing something right, having the best teachers in the state as well. But the question is, can we do it even better? And when the teacher in resident program was introduced, it got me thinking. And perhaps the best way to discuss this is to sort of describe the recruiting process as I understand it, and then you guys can help me fill in the blank and maybe find a hole in my logic that I might have here. So it's obviously the goal of teacher recruiting is simple, but it's hard, right? We want to hire the best, most qualified teachers and put them in front of our kids. Out of our 780 staff at Darien's school district, we have about 330 teachers, excluding 70 special ed, 400 teacher aid, etc. And there is some annual turnover that we have, and I don't know what the number is, and maybe I should know it, and maybe you can help me to figure it out and tell us whether it's up or down over time, and are we happy with the turnover, etc. But say it's 40 teachers a year. So now we have open positions, and we go, and thank you for these responses. You tell us where you guys go to find the best qualified teachers, whether it's the Connecticut teacher recruiting side, the New York teacher recruitment side, but also the universities, including University of Connecticut. And I imagine when we review positions, when we review the candidates, we look at experience, their education, their references, and you describe here nicely that you also do very rigorous interview process, including putting them in front of our kids to see how they respond. Now, what we do not look at is gender, race, religion, right? Because our goal is to put the best kids, the best teachers in front of our kids from the widest possible talent pools without looking at these other metrics, which would be wrong and also illegal, right? So now with this TAR being introduced, I was puzzled why we need to do that, because it's a wonderful idea on one hand, because it gives us opportunity, both us and the teacher, the participant in the program, to test it out for a year, right? But I also looked at, why are we admitting that we are missing a great talented teachers, some kind of pool that we're not hitting without this program, right? So I looked at the graduating class, or the UComm School of Education statistics, and according to Wikipedia, they have 1,200 students, and 65 are Caucasians, right? I know we don't decide based on race or the other metrics. We decide on other, on experience and what I said earlier. But we do know how the final sort of teacher pool looks like. And if UConn is representative, you'd imagine that our teacher pool will be similar to that proportion, 65 Caucasian. Maybe not, maybe around there, but it shouldn't diverge very differently, right? So I don't know if that's the case. I would guess our number is much higher. So the question really is, that's the big question, are we missing some kind of group of talented teacher, and why is that? And I would love to get your perspective on it. That's basically my question regarding recruiting.
Would Dr. Adley or Mrs. Sion like to answer or make some comments? I think to the extent that they are appropriate.
I don't know, Dr. Adley, whether you want to speak to this or. So we participate actively in the State Minority Recruitment Consortium and in the Cooperative Educational Services, also the Minority Recruitment Consortium. And what we've learned through research that they've done and research in general is that candidates of color oftentimes feel much more comfortable in places where there are more people who, either staff members or residents, who look like them. So that is our biggest stumbling block. We are opening ourselves up and aggressively pursuing recruitment sites that where minorities, would most likely apply. But that's why I think that Dr. Adley and the board and I are hoping that with a teacher in residence or two, we might start the ball rolling and attract some people of color.
Okay. Now, what can you just give us a color on how many teachers that? What's the turnover, and do you follow it over time? Has it gone up? What are the reasons for people for leaving? You know, are we missing something? Are we, you know, are we competitive on all the metrics teachers look at? Thank you.
So the turnover rate has dropped drastically since I first got here 6 years ago. We were losing up to 70 teachers a year, and we're down to between 35 and 40. You know, a lot of the reasons that people leave are either a promotion or they want to work closer to home. But I don't know that there's much we can do to keep the ones who leave, and some, frankly, are counseled out that it would be a better fit for them in another district. But the strategic plan identifies potentially some teacher leadership positions in the district and some more support for teachers new to Darien, but who are not new to the teaching profession, which hopefully, you know, will keep more teachers in Darien.
Okay, thank you.
Did that take care of it, Peter?
Yes, it takes care of it. Thank you.
That takes care of your
and
questions?
No, I have one more, which is regarding sort of the trying to get in ahead of Dr. Adley and think about how he's thinking about, you know, the upcoming budgets. I mean, this was an interesting year. We were in the middle of COVID, and at the end of the day, we ended up plus 4%, which was you know, reasonable at the end of the day. And I know Curtis explained to me last time that you know, a lot of these things were either one-off and or COVID related. But now we have a strategic plan that we worked hard on, and Lisa worked hard on with a group of 30 other people in town. And that's going to lead to many exciting new ideas, how to prepare our kids for the future, how to develop the you know, the portrait of a graduate. What skill does he and her
Yeah,
have?
and then I got an email from Alan saying
Okay,
log
so
into one
everybody has to
Monday,
be,
Tuesday, and Wednesday.
can we make
I do
everybody
one
mute?
Wednesday, clearly.
Can we?
So, yeah, sorry. So, you know,
Okay.
now what I was trying to understand, you know, we will have 7 goal areas, how to make this district even better, right? And, you know, we as a community and the people, the Board of Education will sort of fill in the blank into the Dr. Lemon's, you know, template of what are these important areas, right? Whether it's extra computer class for everybody, extra sport, extra test preparation, extra statistics, whatever we determine is important for us. But these, I imagine, in totality will be, you know, costing a meaningful amount of money. And we will have to layer them out probably over time. And that's really what I have a question for Dr. Adley, is, you know, once he looks at this completed picture, where he wants the district to take based on this great assessment that we've done with Dr. Lemons, we may conclude that maybe the cost of running this district is 20% higher, obviously, or whatever the number will be. It's very likely to be more than the normal annual 2 to 3 or 4% increase. So what I wanted to sort of try to understand is how do you, Dr. Adley, think about this? Will you prioritize things and layer them out over time, or will you present all of them to us and we'll tell the community, hey, these are the 10 things we should be doing to be even better, and you know, you guys tell me what is your priorities, and when you set the next year budget, do you sit down with Board of Education, Board of Finance before and sort of follow their guidance on what they think is the appropriate growth in, you know, in a tax, you know, in the tax base that goes to the school district, as a percentage of our grand list and wealth in the community. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Adley, would you like to answer that question or make some comments? Is Dr. Adley here? I think. Are we able to hear Dr. Adley, Christian?
He's muted. Now he's not. Now he's, okay.
All right. All right. Would you like to comment on Peter's questions, Dr. Adley?
Can you
I
try
don't know.
calling in?
Okay, I tell you what, why don't you try to work that out? I have two questions for Marge. If is she still here? Marge, are you still here? Can I ask you, I have two questions. One, I know we've spent a lot of time on recruitment as in, you know, approaching students who are coming out of college, but as far as people who are experienced teachers, do you find that you often have to, I know you place ads, but how exactly does that process work? If you're, you know, if you're looking to hire somebody who's a little more experienced, do you actively go to other districts and, you know, see if you can find somebody who's willing to come to Darien instead of Canaan or something like that? Do you ever, you know, look for people that way, or how do you go about recruiting a more experienced teacher?
Right. So in the past, we may have reached out to other districts, but that tends to make them quite angry when we reach out to
Yes.
their current staff. So
Sure.
after a little slap on the wrist, I didn't do that again. We have experimented in placing ads in different places, but really CT REAP is where everyone looks, the experienced and the not experienced teachers. It's just where they look when they want jobs. So we get plenty of experienced teachers who apply in the district. They're not always the best candidates, but we do get them.
And the other question is, at one time, the human resources position was like a clerical position, like before you came. Are you able to spend, now that you have sort of a devoted, we have a devoted human resources person, you know, at your qualification level, can you spend more time on recruiting and evaluating? Would you say you were able to spend 25% more time than used to be spent on this process?
Right, so I'm really not sure how it was done before I got here, but Diane Sander really can do the nuts and bolts of everything. So I don't have to spend my time doing the state reports, or I can spend a lot of time reviewing applications. We're doing a lot of hiring right now of administrators, and you know, we had 170 something applicants for the assistant principal positions, and I was able to paper screen all of them and Google around and find out information about people. So it really does free me up to spend time at the Minority Teacher Recruitment Consortium and things like that that I think can be beneficial to the district.
Well, I think that's a good example of how having an administrator position actually enhances what the district can do. You know, oftentimes people say, why do you need so many administrators? But I think this is an example of a way in which that has benefited the district. Okay, thank you. Is Dr. Adley back? Could he answer Peter's questions or comment?
So hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes, I can. Can everybody hear Dr. Adley?
So the first thing is I can't do without Marge. That's the first thing.
Okay.
If I could beg Peter's indulgence to repeat his questions, because it just was coming in and out all sorts of ways. Would you mind, Peter?
Sure, no, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. I was just commenting generally that this was a transitional year in a way, right, with COVID, and we were able to protect a lot of things in the budget, but you know, the new ideas are coming this coming year, right? We ended up plus 4% or a little bit over, you know, around there.
Yep.
But now with the strategic plan that you worked on with Dr. Lemons and 30 other people in the community, now there are going to be plenty other exciting ideas, right?
Yes.
You know, 7 different goal areas, portrait of a graduate, and we need to teach them all these skills, and they'll be expensive, these skills, but worth it, right? So, you know, my question really was, I would expect that in totality, if we take all these new ideas that we would like to pursue, they will be meaningful, maybe 15-20% of the you know, ongoing annual budget, right? Whether it's more extra test prep, more extra sports, extra computer class, statistics, you know, some capital, etc. Maybe I'm off on the number, but it's likely going to be more than the normal annual. That, you know, that was one of the reasons why we want to upgrade this district even more. So my question really is, you know, if we get to these big numbers, right, how do you intend to sort of present the community in your annual budgeting, right? Will you say, hey, here are the 10 you know, goals that I'm trying to achieve, and I would suggest this is the order. Maybe we do first 3 this year, next 3 next year. And in thinking through it, you know, are you really following sort of the Board of Finance guidance that they are presenting to you, I imagine, in the fall of every year, of what do they think is the is this percentage of, our wealth that goes to the community, the school district. So, I just wanted to get into your head, see,
Yeah,
how you think about this.
So if the district, very good question, by the way, if the district did not have a strategic plan, there would still be initiatives that would be coming through the superintendent's budget and so on and so forth, even if he didn't have the strategic plan. Having the strategic plan allows those districts, allows those initiatives to come through in a sort of greater coherent sort of way that will be aligned to the goals. It's not as if we're going to do all the goals just one by one. Some will be done simultaneously. It's not as if all the action plans require a financial commitment. Now, many of them do, but what I would be doing as a superintendent would be bringing to the board. These are the things that we'd like to do in support of the strategic plan on any given budget year, and then the board would take over that proposal and massage it as it normally does, either decrease it, increase it, make revisions. But essentially, it means I'll be presenting the budget in alignment to those actual goals to try and support those goals. But it's not just check off one, keep the others till the end. It'll be done rather simultaneously, but you can see a clear alignment to what we'll be trying to do.
Okay, thank
Did you have any further comments, Peter?
No, this is wonderful. What I'm trying to figure out is basically sort of find a consensus in the community where we are close to both sides, the finance and education sort of come close without having any, replay of 2019. That's, and I think everybody understands it. And I have to say, I appreciate what Board of Finance did with, with taking 2.5 million or whatever the number was out of the general fund to lessen the 7% increase that would have happened in the, in our taxes without that. So I appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions, outstanding questions about the budget? And Christian, can you tell me if Barbara Thorne is here? Because sometimes I can't see the person. I just want to make sure there's nobody raising their hand that I can't see. Are you there? Do you see anybody?
Yeah, I don't see him.
Okay, all right. Okay, as you all know, we did get some advice from the town council when we started this process. I just wanted to point out again, there's no question that's a bad question. It's our job to thoroughly vet the budget to make sure that when we recommend to the RTM that we want them to approve it, that we have taken kind of a lot of scrutiny to every issue here. So don't be shy if you want to ask any more questions. The next thing that we might talk about, let's see, is I guess what we should do first. Are you ready to vote on the budget? On the operations budget? Yes? Okay. All right. Can we have a motion to approve the Board of Education budget, operating budget for 2021-2022 in the amount of $106,624,199? A motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh,
I'll second.
Teresa and Ann. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Hi.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Is
sorry,
there any?
I can't see everybody, so
Okay,
Claire, are
let's do
you able to, can you tell me who didn't raise their hand? That might be easier.
Okay, well, some people here are not members of the committee, so let's see if we can do it this way. Everybody keep your hand up if you are in favor. So Sartori, Vogt, Reed, Flat, Lucas, Worm, Ed, Washeka, Holly Mitchell, Butler, Branca,
This is Lucy. I'm a yes.
Lucy, okay, Barbara Thorne, and Karen McNichol, Carolina. Okay, I think we have everybody. All right, is there anybody who is opposed? I don't see anybody. Is there anybody who's abstaining? Okay, it appears that that's unanimous. Are you okay with that, Meg?
I am, thank you.
Okay, all right, before we leave this item, I just wanted to ask, while Mr. Rule is still here, if you could at some point give us an idea of the American Rescue Plan. I think there was about $900,000 in that. And I think is that for last year's budget? Or does that apply to last year's budget? I think you might be muted. Christian, can you tell, is he coming on?
Is your microphone connected? Are you using the using telephone or are you using your computer? Let's see. If it is, if you're using computer, try to see if your microphone is connected to the GoToMeeting itself. So go to the service itself. So go to GoToMeeting under services and surely to see whether or not your microphone is connected. If not, try dialing in.
You can also go to that little circle thing in the upper right corner and it's settings and look at your microphone and speaker and see if they're what you normally have.
Can we come back? I guess we could come back to this.
Yeah, so Clara, that grant we haven't had the information of that grant yet. It hasn't been released just yet, but it is about 900,000. It covers about 3 years, and we haven't really presented to the board as yet as our proposal for spending it.
Okay, and but the other COVID grants that you have gotten, we've talked about them here, and they apply to last year's budget. Is that right? Just to make sure.
Right. Well, this year's budget, yes.
The budget in the past. Okay. All right. Is everybody ready to leave this subject? I guess Mr. Rudel doesn't really have to answer the question if Dr. Adley did answer it already. If he has something to add, we can do it later, I guess. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next agenda item? And that is relating to the improvements in the capital budget, the Royal Roof, Homes, HVAC, and I don't know if there are other renovations that are still on the list. Would Dr. Adley like to comment on those?
Yeah, I think Mr. Lynch is here. If he's here, he can answer. He can certainly. Mr. Lynch, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Well, in regards to the roof at the Royal School, the newer part of the building, that's the original roof, so that's 25 years old, and it's near the end of its life. We do have a couple spots where we constantly battling leaks. The remainder of the building, including the first grade wing, the original building, and the library, those roofs are due to be done. They've got a few more years left in them. This plan calls for not doing the roof on the library and not doing the first grade wing at this time, because there's a larger plan that may call for other things to happen to those wings. So they're not included in this project.
Okay.
With regards to the HVAC work, we had a brief study done a few years ago, which followed on the recommendations of the 5-year plan that was done in 2016. And it recommended an extensive amount of work to the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system at Royal, Oxbridge, Hindley, etc. But Holmes was the one that they targeted on as needing the most work, because the original part of the building has a lot of the original heating system dating back to the 1930s. And the money in the budget, it's priority one for this year, which I believe is $300,000. That money
305 is, yeah, okay.
300,000 for this year's
Okay.
budget. That is to hire a professional architect engineering firm to design a system, keeping in mind that that design may be incorporated into future plans for the homeschool.
And was there a Hindley roof or was that removed?
The Hindley roof is actually, we're going over bids right now on that project. There is another section of Hindley scheduled to be re-roofed, but that is a priority 2 for this year. So that would probably be a priority 1 in next year's budget.
Okay, so the amount of the capital budget is $1,162,921. So that includes the HVAC study and the Royal roof, is that right?
Those are 2 items in the capital budget, yes. That's not the whole capital budget. Priority 1 items that were presented is $2,312,000.
Okay, okay. Yes, but then some money was used from other funds to reduce the amount, right?
Oh, yes, I think the Board of Finance is going to bond those other issues.
Right, okay, so the amount that we would be voting on, I guess that's what I'm looking at. Any questions about the capital budget from the committee? Any comments or questions? Okay, would you like to vote on this? Okay, all those in favor, first we need a motion. Okay, Tara and Ed, is that right? Did you have your hand up, Ed?
No, but
I'm sorry, okay.
Waddy has his hand up.
Waddy has his hand up. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, so that should, so it's Tara and Ed. Okay, I mean, I'm Tara and Waddy. I'm sorry. Okay, all those in favor? Okay. Okay, Meg, are you getting this? I think it's. Okay, is there anybody opposed? Okay, and any abstentions? Okay, Nick, you're abstaining? Okay, 1 abstention.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it, okay. Thank you all. Okay, are we ready to leave this agenda item?
Wait,
Yeah.
Clara, I'm just wondering, because usually you would give something like that in your report, why Nick decided to abstain.
That's up to Nick, I guess. Do you want to make comments, Nick?
yeah, I guess I just don't feel ready to vote approval to it, especially with, you know, a whole presentation of different projects on 3 of the different schools and, you know, understanding how all that fits together and the timing and, you know, why we're doing part of a roof in 1 year and part of a roof in the next year. So I guess just not ready to vote on it myself.
Makes sense. I guess, yeah, I did watch the presentation and the public hearing as well the other day, and I guess there might be some things that were not included. I know someone was talking about paving the road at Hindley. I think that was, is that an example of something that was not included, Mr. Lynch?
Yes, that's something that was taken out of the budget.
Okay. I guess we would all have the same concern that, you know, certainly you don't want to put a roof on a building 1 year and tear down the building the next, but you can't, you know, you have to have a roof that doesn't leak too. So we look forward to learning.
Clara, if I could interject here, that all these projects were vetted thoroughly through the facilities committee and through the board, through the budget process. And there was a lot of coordination done that to make sure that anything we're doing from a renovation standpoint ties into the overall capital projects. So there's nothing that Mr. Lynch has presented that we're doing that doesn't make sense to do and ties into the potential future renovations that we're doing. So we're not doing anything that's going to have to be redone or interfere with what those potential renovations are. It's been a very thought out, planned process in terms of looking out over the next several years as to what capital needs to be put into those buildings and how that works with respect to the renovations that we're doing. So it's all very well coordinated.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, are we ready to leave this agenda item? Okay, the next thing that we need to discuss is the Ox Ridge School easement. We had gotten some information today from Kip Coons, who's on the building committee, and also Duke is here, who is also one of the co-chairs of the building committee. Duke, do you want to like embellish or expand on what might have been, what Mr. Coons had told us about? Who's asking for the easement, why this option is the best one?
So it's Eversource, and it's just in line with the power that needs to go into the new school building and an upgrade to that power. So there was a lot of discussion around several options, some involving trenching across Mansfield, where the location of the pole is and different things like that. So they were all vetted through the architects, through the construction, and through the engineers. And the option that was presented, I think option 1 is the best option that the committee has vetted and gone through and approved, is to give that easement to set a new pole to the east side of Mansfield. I think it's the least disruptive and it makes the most sense in terms of the overall project and what Eversource needs to do to get the power into that building.
And I think that the project would not be done while the children are in school. Is that right? It would be after
Yeah,
the
I think
summer?
part of the plan was to do it on a break. I'm not sure a weekend is viable. So it'll be done, I believe it might be done over a weekend or a long weekend, if not immediately after school closes.
Okay. And I think that the emails that I sent today, I noted that this is different from the easement that the committee granted for DOT in September. So this is a completely different thing. Does anybody have questions about the Oxbridge easement? Anybody who's listening who maybe I'm not able to see your hand? Color 2. Any questions? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the Oxbridge easement for, as described on the memo?
I'll make a motion, Clara.
Okay, Ann and Karen McNichol. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, so we have, looks like everybody, Teresa, Elizabeth, Eliza, Ann Reed, Wadi, Tara, Carolina, Ed, Curtis, Holly, Karen, Lucy. No, Lucy, are you there? Okay, Nicholas,
I am.
Peter, me, Meg, and then Lucy, was your hand up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Barbara, are you here? Is Barbara Thorne here? Okay, I don't, so I called out everybody who had their hand up. Is anybody opposed? I don't see any hands. Does anyone want to abstain? Okay, I think there are no abstentions. Is that somebody? Christian, is somebody trying to talk? Do you know?
I don't, but I would like to know who's caller number 2 so I can know exactly who this is. Caller number 2, can you please state your name?
Is it Barbara? The only person on the committee that we don't have a picture for is Barbara.
I think
Am I
somebody,
number 2?
Oh, yes. Is that you, Barbara?
I have
Okay.
no idea. Right.
Okay.
I'm by telephone. You know me. I came in late. And
Okay. Do you have any questions about the Oxbridge easement? We just voted on it.
no,
Did you?
I'm delighted with the amount of detail that we've gotten on this. It's great. It really helps
Okay.
us decide, move forward.
Okay. So your hand was up.
I guess. I don't know how to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any questions about anything else relating to the budget or to the easement or anything else that we've discussed tonight? Okay.
Hi, it's actually me, Clara. I did have one, just, as a point of form. I just, we received that email and the picture on the easement this afternoon at 3:30. And I'll be honest, I'm leaning on the expertise of my peers here in this committee who've been on the committee and have seen projects like this repeatedly. And I'm, just basing the decision on the fact that it has been vetted thoroughly by other committees who are far more skilled in this. But I'm not sure that we would really have a lot of leverage to vote on something that we've seen for 4 hours. So I don't really understand that. It could just be sort of a process-oriented thing. But I just want to say that, I voted yes for it because, I trust my peers and their understanding of this. But, seems a bit odd to me, is all.
The information came too late. Is that what you're saying?
A little bit.
Yeah, okay. Duke, did you want to comment?
No, she brings up a good point, but I think she also brings up a good point, and this has been vetted thoroughly by the professionals and by the building committee. So I think it's more of a process issue.
We don't have to redo everything. Yeah.
Yeah, this was vetted by the town attorney also, by Wayne Fox.
Yeah.
This has gone through,
That's right.
the normal channels. Yeah.
Trust the professionals. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, I guess also we did, I guess in the fall, in September, when we talked about the easement for the, to drain, it was an easement to drain. That was a question that came up, that was it vetted by the town attorney and also by Jeremy Ginsburg? And we did send that back for a little while to get the answers to those questions. So if you have anything else that you want to, that we have questions about, we can still ask the questions. I mean, I think the majority of us wanted to go ahead and approve it, but if there are other questions, we can certainly still ask them. So, I think Duke made a good point that the people who really are very close to the situation recommended this particular option. Okay, any other comments or questions relating to the budget, the capital budget, or the easement? Okay, the only other thing left on our agenda is to approve the minutes of April 7th, which was our last meeting, and also February 1st. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 7th? Teresa, and second, Curtis. Okay, all those in favor? That's pretty good. Okay, and anybody opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Okay, that takes care of it. Also, the minutes of February 1st. Ann moved, Ed seconded. All those in favor? Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, any abstentions?
Me, I'm abstaining.
Lucy, you're abstaining. Okay, anybody else abstaining? Okay, thank you. We're still trying to we'll nail down the February 11th. That was a special meeting. That has not been approved yet. We're going to get the minutes up as soon as we can. Okay, any other comments or questions about any business of the Education Committee? Curtis?
Yes, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment before we lost Dr. Adley and Mr. Janine. As a parent of 2 children in Middlesex Middle School, I have been incredibly impressed by how the administration has handled the messaging on COVID and the steps that families are supposed to take to keep numbers down. The diligence in the communication, the frequency of communication, the communication from our director of nursing, it's just been so incredibly welcome, incredibly thorough, and truly a model for the entire town. I don't know if other schools are doing it or other towns are doing it this well, but I really take my hat off to you. It's been super impressive, and I'm sure it's a contributing factor to the fact that the numbers have come down very recently.
Thank you,
Did
Curtis.
you hear that?
I'm sure to pass that along. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Curtis. I know our healthcare professionals will appreciate that. They are literally been working 24/7, but it's a total community effort, and the administration and the board and the teachers, the students, and the parents. Everyone's listening and everyone's trying, but thank you for that.
My pleasure. It's been great.
Ann?
I just wanted, for the benefit of those on this committee, to appreciate what you have and to back up what Curtis said. Is my twin grandchildren, who are in the 5th grade, went back in the classroom for the first time today. The first time in 13 months they went back to school. So, I hope everybody appreciates what we have in this town and how hard the teachers and the administration has worked. And also, I just want to thank Clara for your leadership over this period of time for this committee.
Very nice of you. Thank you. Okay.
I would say that's great, and we are considered we are considered a model for the whole state of Connecticut. They look at what we have done and how we've done it, and are saying good job and following us. So
thank you.
It's awesome. Thank you all.
Okay, well, I want to thank the Education Committee, first of all, for all your diligence and all of your willingness to get information and emails and what we had to go through this year. I'd love to meet all of you in person. Maybe before long, we'll be able to do that. And thanks to Dr. Adley, to Mr. Janid and the Board of Education members for all of their work, and also to all of our guests tonight for sticking with us and listening. I'll do a report on the comments that we made about the budget, and I will send it to the Education Committee to get your reaction in the next few days. Any other comments or questions? Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, Teresa and Curtis. Okay, it's about 7:49. Thank you all.
Thank you, Clara.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Clara, for all your work.